All right, we're going to try something. I do not know if it is going to work, and that is a big part of the fun. So if you've been joining me on my journey, where we've been painting this Queen of Hearts, then that's great, thank you. I'm really excited with how she's turning out. She's not done, but she looks really nice and friendly. And I think that's awesome. She's very unassuming, and that's kind of scary because she's deranged. And I thought, I know I want to make some characters and make some hats that they can wear, like little paper dolls with, interchangeable hats. That's something that I thought would be a fun idea. I kind of want to make an interchangeable face, or at least a second queen, something. And I want to keep the integrity of the first queen as much as possible. I want what I do to look like her, but I want her to maybe look a bit shouty or crazy, or I don't know. So I scanned my queen, I printed her out. Now this is not going to be exactly the same size as the previous queen, because my printer has scaled it down to fit the page with margins and on 8.5 by 11 instead of 9 by 12. But it's pretty close. Now, I don't have graphite transfer paper. I am not really a paper transfer girly. Excuse me, I'm just grabbing a pencil here. But I have seen people who do the sort of budget transfer paper process where they scribble their pencil all on the back of the image they want to transfer so that can get laid down on the new surface. I didn't feel like using a pencil. I used a little charcoal stick like this, so I could get the charcoal on there quicker and easier than with this tiny little pencil point. But theoretically, now that that's scribbled on there, I should be able to trace over this picture and have it transfer the image to the paper behind. I've got to press fairly hard. There it is, it's working. Yes. Great. This means that now I can make the same or a similar queen. Oh, you can see my smudgy fingers. I thought I got all of that wiped off. Apparently not. And I can make the same or similar queen, but change up her face. I like the idea of maybe having her screaming, because she does like to scream, off with their head. In hindsight, part of me wishes I had taped this down. So I think I'm going to grab some tape. I just don't want my paper moving a whole bunch and messing up this transfer, so it doesn't have to be a lot of tape, just enough to keep it in relatively the same place. But yeah, I kind of imagine having her hair coming even more frazzled and undone. So these little heart wispies might be more exaggerated and stuff. And this sweet little mouth she's got is open, shouting, and maybe her eyes are a little larger and more bugging out, if you will. But again, I want to start with relatively the same image so that when we go to make those changes, it still looks like exactly the same character. And I am not someone who draws enough faces that I feel like I can confidently reproduce an exact copy of the same face. So I'd really prefer to transfer what I'm already working with and go from there. So thank you for following along on this journey and experiment with me. For those of you who've been watching all of the Queen videos as she's developed, thank you especially, because it's been really exciting to start doing this on YouTube and sharing my process with people, my work with people. But yeah, especially that nutty little process that likes to work on a bunch of different things and sometimes gets ideas that we don't always follow through on, but are still really cool and all of that jazz. This one I really am thinking I might follow through on though, because I have been thinking of doing a bunch of, or some sort of like Alice project for a long time. And the idea of turning it into a junk journal project is really exciting for me, especially because a lot of the other Alice stuff that's out there is either taken from the original book illustrations, because I think that those are now sort of, you know, free domain or public domain. Is that it? Public domain. And available pretty widely to be used in creating stamps and ephemera and stuff like that. And you will see, you know, I think potentially some of that in an actual junk journal when I put one together, or it's referencing the Disney movie, which, as we know, I love, but I'm not looking to recreate that. Or sometimes I'll see sort of like anime style or something that's very clearly AI, or like these dark gothic Alices, and none of them are really what I'm looking for. So I thought, well, let's just use this as an opportunity to create some original art and make what I'm looking for, or at least make something different. Anyway, we now have our charcoal Alice ready to go. But I can use this tape later. That's why I'm peeling it off carefully. A little bit of rippage, not from the prepared background underneath at least, just from the printed paper. Even, this is Scotch Delicate painter's tape. It's really good. It's the best I've found so far for taping off with minimal rippage, and I know I can get my heat gun, but I don't have a good outlet over here, and I don't feel like going over, and that is great. That is exactly what I was hoping for. The other fun thing about this charcoal transfer is that it should be somewhat water soluble, which means that as I make changes, they will either get moved away with water when I do some painting, or hopefully I can even lift them up with my little kneaded eraser here as we go. So I'm just gonna get this guy prepared. For use. And a lot of this I want exactly as it is. So the pencil that I used when I first drew the Queen, which I did off camera, was this Derwent Graph Tint Port colored pencil. And I'm just gonna run this back through absolutely everything that I want to keep exactly as is. That'll be a great way for me to capture that and have it ready. So we'll start there. We'll start with what we're keeping exactly the same. So we're going to keep at least the basic structure of her hairdo, although I think we're going to make it pretty wild as we go along. Yeah, and this charcoal is smudging, and that is fine with me because this is the dark Queen anyway. So she's probably not going to have quite the same look and maybe going to be a little bit grungier. I know there's splatters here, but honestly, that's pretty tame. She does not look that grungy to me. So if there's a little added grunge from the charcoal, I actually think that's a good thing for this secondary piece. So let's just keep on running through this, drawing out the dress. And this is very exciting. I love this textured background because I can't get my lines perfect. And I have such perfectionist tendencies. I will really judge myself when I think I should have done something in a very perfect, ideal way, and it doesn't come together like maybe it was in my head or quite as neatly as somebody else, or I get on myself about I'm not someone who draws, you know, photographic imagery, and I know people who can, and sometimes, you know, I can really get down on myself, like I'm not good enough at drawing. But the truth is, I just make different art than they do. Blowing off some of that charcoal dust. And so when I get things all gritty and grungy and weird like this, I actually think that helps me let go of that. And honestly, I just think it looks cool and interesting. Like it's got a little bit more. So this used to be her eyelid. But now I'm going to use that as sort of her eyeball. I'll come back to that, but I want a nice big eye there. And then for this, I'm gonna have larger sort of flaring nostrils, right? And she is going to be shouting. So this mouth is gonna be wider. She still looks happy. She looks too happy. Maybe I'm just not meant to make people who are upset. I don't know. We'll keep working on it. Okay, now we have these little wispies, but now let's make even more of them. And I'm gonna make them more exaggerated. Because she's angry and out of control. And so her hair is going to be much more frazzled. see, it's directing my pencil. Like I can't draw a straight line to save my life because it would not let me. Not in a million years. All right. This is getting wild. So maybe she still looks happy while she shouts, but man, if you look at her hair, you know something is not all right in her world. And that is definitely a good start to what I want. Ah, that is perfection. Okay. I didn't even need to use this to lift any of the graphite up. Definitely would have. There we go. I don't know if you can see that, but it is pulling up those graphite lines I initially traced in, and I'm just dabbing it. For years, I did not know that was how you were supposed to use this. It's also pulling up a little bit of the graph tint pencil, which I'm not upset about. But yeah, for years, I thought I was supposed to use it the way I use other erasers and just scrub at the paper, and then I would get these weird marks, and it never worked the way I wanted it to. All right, here's the truth. I think part of the problem, too, is with her posture. Is it? No. I don't know if I want to actually change it. I kind of like the idea of her looking exactly the same, and then we can almost just replace the whole head. It's pretty crazy. All right. So at this point, what I like to do is grab a brush or my water brush. In this case, I have my actual watercolor brush is even more handy. So I'm just gonna grab one. This is a Princeton Velvet Touch Long Round number 2. I have a lot of different watercolor brushes, and I'm not in the mood to be picky about them right now. This is literally just the first one I grabbed that looked like it was about the size and shape I wanted. And I got it wet, just lightly wet, and now I'm going over those graph tint lines, just blending and blurring them, sort of gently creating color on the page. I like to do this step and then, excuse me, I'm just grabbing a blotting sheet so I can blot color off from time to time. I like to do this and then go back and add paint and other things. But for me, I find that if I don't do this first, it blends with the paint even more than I want. I don't mind that they blend together. That's one of the reasons I use those graph tint pencils in the first place. Gosh, I love them. I wish they came in a million colors. I would buy them all. And I know a lot of people will say, just buy the colors you use or buy a few colors. And so they probably think that I think it's 24 maybe that come in the set, or the full size set are plenty. But I am one of those people who kind of likes to collect colors. I like all the colors. I like all the options. I think of color the same way other people think of Pokemon, right? Gotta catch them all. So I need all the color. All the color, give me it. Here we go. Yes. Yes. She's just coming together. And so in this one, I'm going to use different splatters. I may even change her dress. I might do like a black and red and kind of just do a darker, bunch of colors. Like I want people to see her and think, that is a crazy queen. She a little cray. She a little nuts. Off with their heads. Trial to follow. Right? So, and I kind of like having two queens. I like the idea that she might seem sweet and normal at first, and then absolutely deranged later. And I think that that's honestly way scarier than someone who is obviously insane from the get-go. From the get-go. Every time I hear someone say from the get-go, a teeny tiny little piece of me thinks they've said from the get-go, like the lizard, like a gecko lizard, from the get-go. I don't know why. It doesn't make any sense, but it does make me snicker. Anyhow, we've got these flaring nostrils, not dainty like the first queen, and we've got this screaming mouth. There we go. And for some reason, I only missed that part of her chin fixed. So we'll do these other bits of hair. We'll do her pretty little dress. And it's all just gonna soften that pencil. Everything starts out with this nice red tint, which is honestly exactly what I want at this stage. I loved my first queen. She looked deranged at this stage, even though she was sweet. She didn't have any pupils in her eyes, and everything was red and kind of weird. And I just think that's a really cool stage for these things to be at. Sort of raw and unfinished, but smoothed out with the water. Softened just a bit. There's just a little bit more life in them than there was when all I used was pencil, right? Get this fun bit of color. I almost wish her crown had popped off. Is that too late? I wonder if I can manage that with my eraser. I mean, with mixed media, it's almost never too late because you have so many different mediums at your disposal to cover things up and pull things back. But I did kind of like the idea of using mostly the same tools and mediums as before, and those did not those use just watercolors and not things like acrylics, which is normally what I would need to beat this back. I'm not going to be able to pull this up the way I want to. Maybe I'll do a third queen and she won't have a crown, and her face will be even more grotesquely transformed. Right. Who's to say? Who knows? Who's to say? I'll just see where we land. Because we are not done here. We're not done until I decide we're done. We can have as many queens as I want. Plus, the little graphite transfer trick was real easy. So next time I just don't transfer the crown. I add that in however I want to. Boom. That easy. Bob's your uncle. I might do exactly that. I even have another prepared background. I have the gold of these backgrounds that I prepared was so that I could start working on other characters, because I'm itching to get started on the White Rabbit. I like painting rabbits or hares. They're fun. And I'm ready to get to work on my Mad Scientist, Mad Hatter, and Alice. But the Queen has taken me places. She's taken me places I didn't expect. I only expected to make one. Then I made that first one and I said, I like this. But she doesn't look very crazy. She doesn't look very mean. I gotta do something about that. So I did. And that got us here. And now I'm thinking, can I take it to an even crazier level, right? Maybe I just do the face next time. I could blow up the image before I print it off and then get in there with a big face and go all the way in. I don't know. I do know I want to let this finish drying before we do anything else to it. Although it's pretty dry already. So I probably can get in with a layer or two of paint if I really want to. So I'm gonna pull out my paints. These are, again, my Beam paints. These are wonderful. They are light fast pigments, so really good high quality paints. They're made in Canada. They are made, they're indigenous made, so they have been created through using methods that have been passed down from generations. And I love that. I feel like you can just feel soul in these paints in a way that doesn't exist in other watercolor. I don't know. Maybe that sounds a little crazy to some of you, but I feel like things all have their own energy or soul or lack thereof, and so I have lots of different watercolors I love to work with. These are not my only favorite watercolors, but they are the ones that always bring me the most joy because of that little extra bit of energy that comes along with them. So I remember last time I used this little peachy color to start with, which is really nice base, and then I went back over it later after it dried with some pastel pencils, so I will likely do that again. I am sure that I will manage to do something differently from the last time, and that she will not look exactly the same in terms of, you know, the overall color or finished result, and I am good with that. I don't think she has to look exactly the same. I think she just has to look like she's part of the series, part of the collection I'm working on here, and that should not be a problem at all, as long as we use a lot of the same methods and processes, and in this case, trace from the original, right? So I've got this lovely base here for her skin. And I'm trying to remember exactly what I did for her hair, because I feel like, oh, did I use the Violet Mars? I think I used, oh, that's not Violet Mars, that's Cub Brown. All right, oops, let me get that off on our paper. And rinse that brush and try again. Violet Mars, which is its own sort of port or deep wine red. Yes. I remember I did this and then I ended up going over it with a Neo color and adding some more brown. I kind of think we're going to leave this pretty red. I like the idea that like she's getting angry and her hair's turning a redder color, right? And not a natural redhead sort of red, but this deep angry red. I like the idea of that a lot. So I don't think we're going to have the exact same hair color as last time. I think we'll play this up in a slightly different way. All right. I realize that's covering up some of those hair swirlies. That's okay. We can always draw them back in later if we need to put them back. We can even draw in more. So that's okay if some of this stuff disappears as we work. It's kind of one of the things I love about working in layers. You can take things away, add them back, play around. The same. Let's do an initial Violet Mars color in those eyes. All right. And then I'll go ahead and get this red color I've got and use that on her dress. Ooh, I don't know what I used last time. It does not look like it's going to be the same. Again, that's okay. I was already thinking of changing this dress. And now I'm kind of like, what if we made it red? Red with the Violet Mars. Just like, oh, so much red. Because that would be a lot of fun. So I'm going to just go ahead and put in these brighter red layers. So pretty. I like that red a lot. It's really doing it. It's doing it. And just like with drawing, my lines are not going to end up perfect. There's this like tiny part of me that wants to hyper focus on that. And then the other part of me that says, step back, look at the whole. Realize that's not the point. Get a grip. If you wanted to paint a queen that looked a certain way, you would do that. That's not what you're trying to do. You're not trying to create the world's most realistic image. And I wouldn't even say I want it to look very cartoonish either, although I think my people tend to look a bit cartoonish, and I'm good with that. I think it's just my own interpretive style for the queen. Go, getting that in. Just kind of filling it in right now. Great. I think I am gonna do a third one of these where she comes even further undone. She does kind of look like she's still a bit too happy. I think I've got the corners of her mouth turned up too much maybe. I might need to further exaggerate some things. I don't know yet. Almost looks like she's shouting to her friends to join her at the mall. Unless we can do something here. I may also need to look at some pictures of angry people, see if I can pick up on a couple of things. I am definitely one of those people. I do not have pictures in my head. So when people describe the way something looks in a book, I cannot see a picture of that thing, no matter how well they describe it, how thoroughly, right? Like if you've ever read Tolkien, man, he describes things really thoroughly. I do not see those pictures in my head. I have just never been good or capable really of holding that image in there. I know some people can, I cannot. And so I often do a lot of work with reference images when I'm trying to achieve something specific and know, I know I won't be able to do it without looking at a reference. And that is just fine with me, because a lot of times I don't like to do something specific. I like to just get in there and paint and end up with wherever it takes me without too much regard for that level of specificity. All right. Let's get a little black in these eyes. Black in those eyes, a little black in that mouth. Is it that her eyes are wide? Is that the problem? Should I have made those narrow? Maybe that's what it is. I think that might be the key. That's okay, because I like this one too. It's all right if we have more than one image of the queen, especially since we want to use a lot of this imagery for paper dolls before we do some of those more abstract bits. I can almost see her getting more animated, and this, again, I kind of want to blow up the next one, leave the dress out of it, and just have her face and make her yell. So that is very possibly where we are headed next. Crown is getting dark. We've got this like sparkly dark color I'm gonna grab. Because why not? If she's gonna wear a crown, maybe she has a whole set. And the moodier she gets, the darker it gets. That could be fun. Yeah, so definitely not exactly what I set out to create in terms of angry looking queen. Still not looking super angry to me. Definitely coming a bit undone. I do like where we're landing with the hair. Oh, I still got that glittery paint and I put it in her mouth. That's fine. Not gonna be the end of anything. And we were able to prove out the concept of that charcoal transfer and move it along and create a really fun little image. So this will be fun to play with. All right, we are back again. So just a minute ago, I was working on a more mad, angry, deranged version of this queen. It wasn't going as planned. She looked like she was shouting, but she looked pretty happy, and it was definitely not what I was going for. So, few updates happened off camera. The first is, you probably heard me kind of talking through some things that I might do differently while I was working on that queen. And yes, I did go off camera. I blew up the size of the face, printed that out, repeated my process where I used graphite on the back, traced over it onto a painting surface, and then made a larger, madder queen. I looked up some shouty, angry faces and recognized that I really needed to sort of knit those eyes and that nose kind of together, and scrunch it up, and make the mouth even wider, and not have that sort of smile line that was present in the last piece that you saw me working on. This is what I ended up with. As far as achieving the whole Mad Queen effect, she definitely doesn't look happy here. I am pretty pleased. It's, you know, I mentioned something about whether my work was cartoony, and I think I said initially offhand that, you know, I don't think my work is cartoony. I will say this looks pretty cartoony. I'm not mad at that. I love it. I think it's essentially what I was going for. I also did, for the first queen picture and for this one, some inking, and that was just with some Tim Holtz Distress ink, trying to sort of start to grunge up these backgrounds. I need to do some other things to add even more texture and grit and other things like that to kind of get this to match the overall aesthetic that I'm going for, which is a very imperfect sort of wild, messy aesthetic. So that's what we're planning to do there. So she's not fully done, but she's definitely headed in the direction I want. I'm pretty excited about it. I like the way her crown is shining in the video here. I used a color from my beam paints called Wild Salmon. It is absolutely one of my very favorite colors from them. It's this wonderful red gold color, and I think it looks really nice. I wonder how it's going to scan for me. The other thing that I did off camera is I took the queen that we worked on earlier in this video and covered her over, because I really wasn't super happy with her in terms of what I'm ultimately going for. And part of what I've mentioned in previous conversations through this process as I've been working on the queens is that it's really important to keep going and push through and not be afraid to make mistakes, and it's only paper, and that's exactly where I ended up with that. She looked fine. I probably wasn't going to use her in a journal. She wasn't working for me. So I covered her up. I used some more gesso. Some of that blended with the watercolor. Got a little pink, but I kept painting over it. And then I just played. I played a lot with a brayer and with some stencils and stamps. And I made this. And I love it. This is absolutely going to be one of the journal background pages. It'll be really great to make ephemera like tags or pockets or tabs. And I plan to make additional works just like this that are abstract, textured, colored, grungy. And the thing is, I might have never made this piece if I hadn't made the queen that's hiding underneath it. So that's why it's so important to be able to push through and to let go and to just play. Because if I hadn't made her, then I wouldn't have made this. And this is essentially what I was going for. And if I hadn't made her, I wouldn't have made this. And this is absolutely the kind of piece I want to make more of for this collection. The characters are great, but frankly, for me, I really like more abstract work where I can just get in and play and feel through what I'm creating. And I have not made something that made me as happy as this piece in a while. And I wouldn't have got there if I hadn't have made that queen I didn't even like. I kind of wish I hadn't done it off camera. I was really just goofing off. I was not thinking. I didn't want to talk. I just kind of wanted to do. I will be making more of these kinds of pieces, and I will do them on camera so that you can see. But again, ultimately, you can see there's some hearts here. Those are from a stencil I have. This one. Just a little heart stencil. There's some red hearts that were part of a stamp set. I was trying to do acrylic on some clear stamps I had to see if I liked it. I don't. So I abandoned that really quickly. And then I just took the colors I was already using, and I took this teeny tiny little mini brayer that I have and started going over. And because I have all of that wonderful texture from the collage and the gesso and everything else that's already been added to this piece, that's how you get all of these wonderful lines and color variations and things skipping over and white peeking through. And that's really where the magic came from. And then I just honestly sprayed with some coffee and tea and grunged up a little bit of that white behind there. And that's all I did. I am going to continue to work through and add some details to my queens. I will probably show them in future videos, but I might not do them on camera as much, and that's largely just because when I start to do the detailed work, I tend to pick it up and put it down and pick it up and put it down very briefly. And I think it'd be more interesting to move on and start filming more of these background pieces or even some of the other characters. I'm itching to get to the white rabbit and play with him. I have made a white rabbit in the past. He is one of those pieces that also went awry, didn't go quite as planned when I made him. But this kind of guy that you see here with this little waistcoat that's repeated in the piece is probably what I'm looking to do. And I may go over this piece with even more layers and try to see if I can make something with it that I think will work in the journal, or I might just scan it and see how it goes with the other pieces as is. But we will be playing around with at least one other white rabbit piece, as well as, I mentioned before, a Mad Hatter and Alice, of course. So I look forward to sharing more of this process with you as we do it. And I will see you again soon. Thanks for following along. And again, if you're enjoying watching what I'm doing and following this creation journey for Alice in Wonderland journal ephemera / art pieces, whatever it is, whatever you want to call it. If you're enjoying following along as I do this, please like, please subscribe, and you'll be updated as new videos come out. Thank you very much.